Understanding your audience and personas. Before we jump into writing your pitch, it's important to understand who you're talking to. Your elevator pitch should be tailored to your audience. That requires knowing who they are. We'll call this creating personas. It's a fictional representation of your ideal customer, investor, or business partners. To better explain personas, we're going to use the humble loaf of sliced white bread as an example. An overly saturated market, we're all familiar with the bread aisle at the grocery store. There are dozens of different options available with what can only be minuscule amounts of variation, right? Example 1 is business to consumer. I sell a loaf of white bread and I happen to be talking to a potential customer. I imagine who my customer is. It's possibly a parent who's packing their kids' sandwiches for their school lunch. And then I think about the problems that the parent has and what problem can my bread solve? My bread is softer, fresher, maybe it lasts longer, or it doesn't fall apart or get crumbs across the floor. They may sound silly, but I think of all the selling points that matters most to that persona, and that's what I work to communicate. For example 2, B2B, business to business. Now, imagine that you're selling that same loaf of bread, but you manage the grocery store. What makes that loaf of bread different from the 400 loaves that are already on your shelves? Well, if I'm pitching you, maybe mine's sliced differently. Maybe my packaging's brighter, or maybe I have a delivery schedule that's way more accommodating and it meets the store manager's needs. Maybe I have a better inventory system or better payment terms. You can rely on my bread for customer service. Have fun with it, right? And example 3, now we're pitching an investor. When we're pitching them, they might ask, why should I invest in your white bread over everyone else's sliced white bread? Take a critical look at your pitch. Don't say, it's my grandmother's recipe, and let me share the story of how this loaf of white bread became the best loaf of white bread in the entire world. They're not going to buy it. Investors care about numbers, and so you have to talk to them in a language that they understand and desire. You might have thought that the story that pulls on heartstrings and makes marketing a breeze was the right pitch for the investor, but it's really not. So we're going to try again. It's got an incredibly high profit margin and has a proven track record of repeat customers. It has logistics established, and I've got my supply chain in place. Now you're talking to an investor. There are 3 wildly different pitches for the same loaf of white bread, and they only change based on the persona. With these modules, we'll be working on creating your first pitches. Then, after you master your first pitch, you're going to write new pitches that are tailored to different personas and interests. There are so many more possible stereotypes that you'll need to pitch. Each persona has different priorities. So tailoring your pitch to those specific concerns is crucial for success. We've already discussed a customer, a vendor, and an investor, but what about a strategic partner or a board member, maybe a regulatory body or a stakeholder or media representative? Those are all wildly different pitches. In the PDF workbook that accommodates these modules, you're going to find an informative guide that coordinates with our loaf of bread personas example. If you haven't already, please download through the link below. In short, in order to create a strong pitch, you first have to identify who the person or audience is being pitched. Ask questions and learn their goal to know what their focus is and determine what the best strategy is for your pitch angle. I've already mapped out 4 points for 10 different personas in the workbook. I hope it'll help you get your creative juices flowing.